BBC.
The action goes on here at Thruxton with the British Formula 4 Championship, and just like Harry Woodhead in Ginetta Juniors, Dan Camish has been unbeatable so far. 8 wins out of 8, including the latest 2 races here at Thruxton yesterday. It's round 9 now. Can he be beaten? Simon Hill and Richard John Neal.
The JTR Miguel of Dan Camish about to line up on pole position here at Thruxton. Dan Camish pole, Harrison Scott alongside, then Juan Rosso and Cameron Kaminski, Luke Williams and Andy Richardson, row 3. Row 4, Lassie Halmanen with Fred Martin Dye, then it's Nico Maranzagna and Sam Brabham on row 5. The 6th row of the grid, James Abbott and George Blundell. Last on the grid, and sadly we've just seen him pushed away, David Wagner for Falcon Motorsport, new driver to the championship. Was looking forward to seeing him race again in this one, the 3rd of 3 races at Thruxton, but sadly problem with the car. New to the championship, no doubt he'll be back at Alton Park. Last cars into line on the grid. Young George Blundell, the young Essex lad, gets his car in. Green flag from the back. That tells the starting gantry that we're ready to race for round 9 of the Dunlop MSA Formula 4 Championship, Great Britain. Dan Camish looking to do it all again. And away they go. Cracking start from Harrison Scott, who gets away well. Andy Richardson from 6th on the grid looks up the inside of Cameron Kaminski to try and take 4th position. So let's see whether he can do that. No, I don't think he has managed to do that, but it's a good clean start by everybody.
Yeah, Sam Brabham looking strong on the first lap as well. Just saw him to the inside, and Fred Martin Dye in contact there with Kaminski. And around goes Cameron Kaminski, and unfortunately that, as he throws his hands up in despair, and I would imagine that's damaged suspension after that. I wonder if Martin Dye's got damage as well after that contact.
Yeah, it could be a disappointment for him. I don't know if that's going to affect a safety car. There's Andy Richardson just ahead of Harrison Scott. Harrison getting his best qualifying of the year so far in this race, a 2nd place. It's been, aside from Dan Camish taking all the wins, it's been a very, very competitive championship. They've all been squabbling over podium positions.
Yeah, Brabham there, great move to the inside of Juan Rosso. Really timed that beautifully, and considering this young man is really new to motorsport, although he's done a fair bit of karting in terms of his racecraft, well, it's certainly a genetic thing, isn't it, for sure, because apart from the famous dad and famous granddad, we forgot to mention he's got a very famous uncle as well, Mike Thackwell, of course, former FIA Formula 2 champion back in 1984. So, Maranzagna looking at what's going on in front. This is where Freddie Martin Dye got to the inside and just unfortunately tagged into the side of Kaminski. Just always a tricky situation, because he clearly got quite a long way down the inside of Kaminski, and then I think he was hoping Kaminski clearly would have maybe given him a little bit more room.
James Abbott involved in the dice here with George Blundell, and George trying to put him under a little bit of pressure. Looks at the inside line as they come out of the complex. There is Dan Camish though, building this big lead over Rosso in 2nd position. It's Maranzagna that we saw past earlier on, but the leading graduate is Andy Richardson. He's in 3rd place. Look at the lead that he's got already. Repeated, Simon, the pattern we saw yesterday. We watched the race on the bank yesterday, and he just, in the early stages, just gets right away, sets the game plan straight away.
Yeah, I think he had something like 10 seconds by the end of the 2nd hour. Freddie Martin Dye clearly didn't get any damage in that contact, because he's on the back of Sam Brabham now and putting pressure on the 18-year-old.
Yeah, so it's a Miguel chassis in front here, and the chasing car is the Cinta. Miguel, of course, have had much more development time in Formula 4 than Cinta, with just 2 cars on the grid, James Abbott and this man, young Fast Freddie, who's come in really well. He got the Cinta's best finish in race 2 yesterday, 6th position, so they're making a lot of progress. And, you know, I was talking to Simon Baldry, who runs the car at just before this race, and he was telling me that, you know, obviously we haven't had the chance to go testing, so the race meetings are just that for us at the moment, so that you can see the development, the progress they're making.
Yeah, I mean, considering also that they missed the opening round of the championship, then they've really done well to get themselves up to speed as quickly as they have. Meanwhile, Andrew Richardson, who took a podium in the first race of the weekend and qualified an outstanding 3rd for the first race, really was impressive. The performance that the family-run team have put in developing this car, getting it working a lot better. Obviously, they got it ever so late. They got it, I think, the night before free practice at Brands Hatch, so they had really limited amount of time with it. A few little niggles as well, but they seem to be a lot more on top of the car now.
Dan Camish then, lap record 1 minute 12.186 for him. Championship leader, 245 points, playing Harrison Scott, 167 second. None of the top 5 drivers have had any DNFs yet in 9 races. That's an awful lot of races not to have significant problems. As we said, the podium positions have been swapped around as Andrew Richardson continues to put pressure on Juan Rosso, who's been a real star since he joined the championship. Now remember, he won Mr. Round, and since then he's not finished lower than 4th, but the 5 races had 3 second places. So he's the guy probably ruining the fact that he had that damaged hand in round number 1 or event 1 at Brandt Hatch, as Richardson continues to put the pressure on the former Ginetta Super Cup driver, really showing his mettle here in single-seater racecraft.
Yeah, looking very much like the car seems to be working extremely well. Rosso, of course, his dad, Victor Rosso, was a racing driver of note back in the day. In the 80s, he was racing in Formula 3 and Formula 4 2000, which is, of course, very similar to what we've got here in terms of the layout of the car with slicks and wings. And then now he still does some racing in the Argentinian Touring Car Series, runs a team of 4 cars, and also runs the Formula Renault Plus, as it's called, which Juan was racing in last year, had a couple of wins. So a very busy man, very charming man, Victor. Actually, he was here chatting away. Is that Halmanen, I think? Yep. And who's that with him? Is that Scott's car? Or no, that must be Wynn's car. Sorry, the car that David Wagner was in, yeah.
Hopefully they'll try and get him out. So, yeah, Rosso very much with some single-seater experience, which is why he's not in the graduate class. He's running with the white the white background to the numbers, and the car behind, Andy Richardson, with the yellow background, says that he's got less single-seater experience. He's having a go, and he's got the inside line. Andy Richardson comes through to take second place, but they're still side by side. Rosso gets it back.
Yeah, Richardson's got a good run, though. He's going to get to the right as they go through the left-hander. Is he going to have enough of an advantage? He's going to have to be very brave. Well, Rosso is equally as brave. But Richardson's no shrinking violet and slices back through, and it's allowed Harrison Scott to get on the back of the battle.
It has Harrison Scott, who was second position on the grid. This is very typical. Those of you who haven't seen Formula 4 pre-slicks and wings days will know that that sort of action is very typical to Formula 4. And somehow the 4 people have kept it in the development, very limited in the way of aerodynamics. But of course what it does, it gives someone coming out of karting a really good grounding in single-seater racing. And here comes Rosso up to the outside line. Andy Richardson's hanging on to it. Richardson second position. Oh, drives the curve. You can see how that really threw the car off kilter, but he collected it up real well. He'll have lost a little bit of momentum, but he's still in second place.
Yeah, did very well to catch it. And I wonder if Rosso maybe had a little breathe out of the throttle because he thought Richardson was going to spin. But Juan Rosso, as you quite rightly said, has been one of the stars so far of this year, in the sense that he's just seems to have just taken to learning the circuits and getting his head round how to get the most out of this car very, very quickly. He's looked after by Sergio Rinland, who also looks after Nico Maranzania, and Eric Lichtenstein, who was racing in Formula 4 last year. He's now moved up to GP3. And in fact, Nico and Victor Rosso share a house together. So I hope they don't drive into each other anymore, because they had a little bit of a near miss at Donington, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. The moment separated by a few cars on track, but Andy Richardson leading this battle. I know Andy was very concerned a few weeks ago. His nan was taken ill. She's making a recovery. They tuned the telly into ITV4 this afternoon at Bishopsgate, so we wish Edna a speedy recovery, and he's doing this for Edna this weekend.
Oh, that's it. It's a very close family, the Richards, obviously. Dad Gwyn and his mum are always very heavily involved with the racing in every respect, and of course very talented sister as well in Louise. Big lock up in the background.
Sam Brabham.
Yeah, I think he just managed to get it stopped. It's nice. His eyeballs will be bouncing around in his head now after that. He'll have a flat spot to manage all flat spots, I think.
So Andy Richardson in second position, looking good for a second podium. Victor Rosso, their second graduate at the moment, is Harrison Scott, the yellow and blue car, who's running well. To see Harrison getting up towards the front. It's second in the championship. Nico Maranzania is third, George Blundell fourth. At the moment, Blundell's down behind Fred Martin Dye, still the top of the 2 centres. But half distance, we know that tyres have been a bit of an issue on these cars. Doesn't seem to have been so over the 2 races we've had this weekend, though.
Yeah, and I had a chat with Dan Camish about this, and he said actually when it was in the colder conditions, in fact it was extremely cold at Brands, if you remember it.
Yeah.
Hard to believe it's only a few weeks ago, and we had snow on the Saturday. He said that was what was causing the graining of the tyres a lot of people were struggling with. Since it's warmed up, since we've got better conditions generally, and here obviously it's very high speed, as Blundell's off.
Oh,
now, I don't know if he has had a problem there or whether he's just driven the car off. the Man v Food bus on the side, which is their family business. So you were saying, Richard, they got it in the paddock here this weekend.
Yeah, it sort of backs onto the back of their awning, so I guess it's a very effective kitchen for them.
Yeah, great. Might as well use every advantage he got in terms of keeping the budget down. Yeah, he's a really nice lad, though. George is very friendly and very positive. He said that, you know, when they tested here the other week, they didn't have new tyres, and that's kind of hindered them a little bit with a setup for qualifying. But as always, he's making the best of it and doing a solid job. Real frustration for him with that retirement in terms of his graduate situation, championship-wise.
Yeah, disappointing to see the Ashby and Croft McGill out of the race. This is Sam Bradman, though, another driver who joined the championship at round 2 at Brands Hatch, and running, of course, in the graduate class or the scholarship class, 3rd position. Here we go on board. Simon, give us the driver's perspective here at Formula Ford.
Well, coming down into church, you're basically going to be thinking about how you're going to turn the car, and you're looking very, very carefully at your turning point. As you turn in, it's flat through there, as you can hear. Big bump at the apex. You need to let the car run wide to keep the momentum. So you actually need to almost hear that little rumble of the exit curve. You aim at the end of the grandstand. That's your point of reference. Look at him aiming dead straight, brake in a straight line. And then in a Formula Ford, you can diagonally go into the apex. Whereas in some other cars, you might brake, accelerate, brake again. Good exit for Brabham. Very neat and tidy. Into Allard, another flat-out corner. As he turns in, once there's a big bump at the apex, you can see a little bit of lock went on. Now bringing it back into the middle of the road. Now the trick is with the complex is the first bit is the slowest bit. So this is the slowest part. You've got to really stop the car, bring it right in tight, then very gently back on the power through the left, because you're building momentum. And a nasty bump at the apex tops the car out and allow the car to straighten up into the left-hander. Now this is an important corner for all sorts of reasons. Again, it's very, very bumpy through here, but it lines you up with Goodwood, which is, in my opinion, the most difficult corner on the circuit. You have to be a bit in the middle of the road, look for that marshal's post and try and drive the car to the edge of the road. It just drops away very slightly on the exit, so that's easy for the driver to feel like he's going to run out of road, but having that confidence to say it's going to be okay. We can see how much mechanical and aero grip these cars have got by just how comfortably flat out Sam has been through all the fast stuff.
Fantastic lap from Sam, and now coming up Woodham Hill, the 18-year-old based in Henley, originally born in Slough, bit of a contrast between the two places. Loads of complaint letters of people in Slough. Clatters the curves, there he comes, and he's chased. This is the 5th position car. Harrison Scott in front of us. Harrison Ford, as we were calling him yesterday on the bank.
Harrison's Ford, isn't it?
Harrison's Ford, yeah.
He's doing a good job as well. A very, very top-line car to us, Harrison, moving into single-seaters at just the right time. And great thing with Formula Ford is obviously being involved with such a lot of support from the manufacturer. It's great to see that Ford are really getting behind it and really trying to show that this is a really crucial route on the path to a career in motorsport for these young drivers. And you know, hence that they're using the EcoBoost engine, which is very much an intrinsic part of their latest generation cars. Very low emission, very high performance. I don't know if the emissions are a factor on these cars, but certainly the performance is.
Yeah, if they aren't, it won't be too long before the authorities get onto that. So we're back on board with Sam, trying to close on down on Harrison. He's got 17 years of age. Turned 17 back in March this year, and as you said, loads and loads of karting. Goes to school at Great Baddow School in Chelmsford, and he's hanging on to that 4th position. Dan Camish is 8 seconds clear, virtually, at the front at the moment from Andy Richardson. And we're looking at the 2nd, 3rd and 4th position cars. Through goes Harrison Scott in 4th. Sam Bradman closing up as they go through the chicane past the big crowds that are enjoying, well, sunshine earlier on today here at Thruxton, but now being slightly cooler. I dare say a little bit more pleasant. This is a cracking scrap between these two. Has Sam Bradman managed his tyres perhaps a little bit better? He's having a go at Harrison Scott, getting closer there and having a look. Both of these guys, first year single-seater car racers, moving up from karts, and as we said, the ideal forum for them to learn.
Yeah, and of course, because of the characteristics of the car, if you know how to drive a kart quickly, you can adapt to this type of race car a lot more readily than certain other types of motorsport that they might do. And hence it was always in the older days of Formula Ford, when they were on treaded tyres, and they had Formula Ford 1600 and then Formula Ford 2000, back when Victor Rosso, we were talking about, was racing. Then it was sometimes more of a difficult transition for cars, because you're on a treaded tyre with no aerodynamic grip, so the cars moved around a lot more. And then into the slicks and wings, a lot of drivers even then used to go straight into Formula Ford 2000. So Formula Ford 200, as it's called this year, or this generation rather, because obviously the power output is around about the 200 brake horsepower mark.
You're getting a good idea of the top speeds of the cars as they go through there. So there is Rosso and Andy Richardson. So this is closing up for second position. Chassis incident, your tube chassis. It's the only tube chassis race car that's crash tested to FIA Formula 3 standards. There's no other formula where that's done.
Yeah, it's very, very safe car as well. Uses an F3 gearbox or F3 spec gearbox on the back. There's Dan Camish. Well, he is a very impressive young man. He did some fantastic performances in Formula Renault when he was in that, you know, fighting for podiums and getting podiums in with Mark Burdett Racing, who were a great team as they are, were perhaps not in the same position as teams like Fortec and Manor Competition to offer certain things to the drivers in terms of performance. So to do that, it's going to get largely unnoticed. But I think this forum, this formula has allowed Dan to really show people exactly what he's made of.
Yeah, very successful karter, and was scholarship champion in Formula Ford, taking third place overall in 2010. Did 5 years in karts originally, comes from Leeds, and just 24 years of age, so a big future in prospect for him, and a big lead here. Look at the battle we've got on for second, certainly not helping Andrew Richardson. So Rosso closing up, and the battle is now being taken back to the youngster from Lincolnshire that we've of course seen racing in the Ginetta Cup over the last few seasons. One race is there, remember that overtaking he did in the wet at Brands Hatch, and he's really adapted, the team as well, really adapted to single-seater racing superbly. Yeah, absolutely, it's a big transition, but you know, at the end of the day with a race car, there's a certain set of logic that you'll apply to how you make a car handle well, or how you give the driver what he needs, and a lot of that will transfer across. Plus, although Andrew's still only, I think what's he now, 22, I think, he's had done quite a lot of racing in that time, and she said, you know, the GT Super Cup last year in a G55, the year before in a G50, and then before that he was in the Ginetta Challenge, and he did some Formula Ford as well back in the day. So yeah, a lot of experience and really using it to his best. They're getting the very most out of the car. Rosso at the moment seems to be struggling to keep up with Richardson, and be keeping an eye on his mirrors and the times, and as you can see, getting towards the closing stages of the race lead 7.4 seconds clear of this pairing. There he is, there's Dan Camish. He really has made it look so easy, but it's far from that. But now we get a challenge again as they come up into the chicane. Rosso closing up, both clatter the curves, but Andy Richardson is still under pressure. Just to put things in perspective, 10 different drivers have been on the podium this year in 3 meetings. That's incredible. It just shows you how competitive it is. And then people say, yeah, but what about Dan Camish? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dan has just upped his game a little bit. I think the JTR team have done a superb job as well. They've developed the car, the Miguel chassis, which is the same chassis that Jamin Racing are running, who have been the most successful team in Formula Ford in recent years, with multiple champions, some of them in touring cars now, like James Cole, and obviously Scott Malvern, one of their more recent championship winners, and the list goes on and on. Guys like Wayne Boyd, guys like Callum McLeod, really were and have been the team to beat. They've gone about the way that they're engineering a car slightly differently to JTR. I think JTR at the moment have got seem to have the best solution in terms of getting the most out of it, and Camish, of course, is really exploiting it, as you can see by that visual representation of what a gap of nearly 8 seconds looks like. Yeah, these pair squabbling, to be fair, will have helped him. And Rosso coming up again, round the outside line, the Argentine driver trying his hardest. Is there going to be a clash of wheels? Always a danger in open wheel racing, but this is good stuff between the pair of them. Very, very fair bit of driving there. I really didn't think, as you did, Richard, that we might have seen one of them go up in the air there, because that's usually the end result, as we saw with Cameron Kaminsky when he just hopped up over the front wheel of Freddie Martin. Freddie's still running in 6th position. Clearly didn't affect the car. Down the inside go Rosso. Very late on the brakes. Is he going to get it stopped? Yes, he has. What a fantastic last of the late breaker move. Yeah, fantastic manoeuvre from Juan Rosso. Up into 2nd position. Andy Richardson is down to 3rd. But the one thing we know about Andy is that he will fight back. But for my money, Rosso has probably pulled that off at exactly the right time. Last lap, Camish is down the road. These two still squabbling over 2nd. Yeah, it does look like even just in those couple of corners that Rosso's already started to break away. Richardson's in his toe now, so he's going to get dragged towards him, but I think he might just be a little bit too far back to have a significant go at the chicane. So here they come then. There is the race leader. Dan Camish is going to do it again. Win pole position, fastest lap once again for him. It's a superb set of statistics. He comes out of the chicane, past the crowd here, and he'll see the checkered flag. He's got plenty of time to punch the air, buzz the pit wall, and take the 9th win. Here comes second place. Juan Rosso will take it. Andy Richardson's going to get a second podium for the team. They'll be very pleased with their visit down to Thruxton. Fourth position goes to Harrison Scott. That's going to, I think, maintain him in second position in the championship. Sam Brabham third in the scholarship class. Fred Martin-Dyer brings the Cinta home. Again, sixth position, equaling the best. There's Freddie up across the line now. The Cinta chassis, there'll be more of those later in the year, which is going to be marvellous to see. More drivers penciled in to come into the championship. But today, once again, all about the man who dominated the 3 races that we had at Brands Hatch opening the year. He was run close by Scott Morvan at Brands Hatch, but he dominated again at Donington Park, and he's done 3 out of 3 this weekend here at Thruxton. It doesn't matter what sort of circuit you throw at Team JTR or Dan Camish, they deliver the goods.
And obviously at the moment it's looking very much like a done deal, isn't it, in terms of the championship? It's such early days, but he just looks so completely at home, and the team are doing a superb job. They've given him the best possible car. Sort of George Blundell just trudging back to his car there. And hey, what else can you say? We're running out of not expletives, what was I going to say? Superlatives. I've got plenty of expletives, but I better not say them on the TV.
So here's the result of round 9 of the Dunlop MSA Formula Ford Championship Great Britain. Win number 9 out of 9 for Dan Camish. Juan Rosso takes second position. The scholarship class win goes to Andy Richardson ahead of Harrison Scott, with Sam Brabham on the scholarship podium. Third in class, 5th overall. Fred Martin-Dyer brings the Cinta home in 6th place ahead of Nico Maranzagna. James Abbott in the second Cinta, run by Radical Motorsport, is 8th. Cameron Kaminski recovers from the first lap shenanigans to finish 9th, and George Blundell, sadly we saw out of the race, along with Lassie Halmanen, who celebrates his 17th birthday tomorrow, and sadly David Wagner, who didn't start the race very, very sadly. Here's the championship standings. Well, of course, no question, Dan Camish up top. Harrison Scott, though, is still in second position. 9 points clear of the scholarship leader, Nico Maranzagna. Juan Rosso up to 4th now. Remember, he's missed a third of the races. George Blundell 5th from Luke Williams and James Abbott. Cameron Kaminski is 8th from Andrew Richardson. And Sam Brabham now also up into the top 10 after completing 2 meetings. The cars coming down into pit lane. Let's get reaction from Dan Camish after this short break.
Dunlop tyres are proud sponsors of the BTCC.
British Formula Ford belongs to Dan Camish, and we're only just into May. There's a lot of future talent to admire in the category, but it's now 9 wins out of 9 for Dan Camish, who's with Louise.
Yeah, the man who has won every single Formula Ford race so far this season, and you enjoy every one of them, don't you?
Yeah, winning never gets old. Yeah, it's going really well so far. I think that makes it 9. Yeah, the car's great. The team are doing a really good job. So yeah, really happy.
You haven't even broken into a sweat.
Yeah, it is quite warm. Yeah, you know, I do my best for the first sort of few laps and try and get a gap, and then from there it's just about controlling the race, really. If anyone looks like they're going to mount a challenge, I sort of get a bit of a spurt on and control it from there. Well,
I mean, the first 2 races you won by 5-second margins. You pushed it out to 9 seconds that time, so you obviously thought you'd have a bit of a play. Yeah, just a little bit. I think the cars are quite marginal on fuel around here. This engine does seem to drink a fair amount, and but after the second race, they said there's a bit more in the tank if you want to keep going, so I was like, all right, okay. There were some great battles going on behind you. You didn't see any of that, I don't suppose, though, did you? No, at Donington I could see, because, you know, the straights are straight. Around here, there's, you know, the straights are also a little bit corner, so no, I couldn't see, but I'll watch the replay. Fair enough. You'll enjoy every moment of it as well, I'm sure. And let's have a word with the guys who were battling for that second and third place. It eventually went to Juan. Well done you with that great move on just towards the end of the race. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks the team for the car. It's an unbelievable car, really fast. Was nice the end of the race. Without him, the guy who fight with me is going to be hard. I thanks to Harrison, Scott and Andy, who fight really good with me. We are clean, and that is the fun part. Yeah, really nice. Looking at that footage now, you enjoyed this battle, didn't you? Yeah, enjoy it. It was all the race. I don't know, was the first lap and the last lap. was too fast.
And I know your father's flown over from Argentina to watch you racing here for the first time this weekend. Good to have him here. You put on a good show for him.
Yeah, it was a good show with him, for him. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy for the team, for Doug, my mechanic, and nothing. Thank you for watching.
Well done, Juan. And let's bring in Andy. You put up a damn good fight, slipped down to third at the end, but nonetheless another podium position. That's a good result, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good result for the team. It's 3 weekends we've done with this car now, no testing, brand new to us at Brands. We've really come on well with the car. It was just a shame we had a bit of fuel surge on that last lap, and I thought I had second, but a bit disappointed. But we've come away with a second and a third this weekend, so really happy.
I mean, that's good because you had a bit of a frustrating weekend at Donington, so it's going to boost your confidence going back into the little break we've got now to bounce back here.
Yeah, hopefully we can have a test day before Alton Park, nail some fine-tuning on the car. Donington it's always been a bad one for me. I'm glad to have it out of the way. I'm really enjoying it. Formula 4's great, and the rest of the year is going to be really, really good fun.
Well, it's great to watch you. Some fantastic racing.